So I'm like pushing Melody when she shouldn't be pushed at this point. And then finally, like, we were just butting heads in this argument as we're walking out of mile 18. And I said, I was like, well, I don't want to babysit you anymore.
And that just like was the last straw for me. I got so mad.
Yeah.
And I just stopped talking to you, right?
Yeah.
I was like, I'm just done.
We were both upset at each other because we both were stressed about finishing 50 miles and we didn't know how to like run it together. And so at that point, I just started running ahead.
This is your host, Brendan, and you're listening to the Ordinary to Ultra podcast. This podcast is all about helping you run your first ultramarathon and beyond. Tune in to hear new and experienced ultra runners share how they got into running in the first place, what inspired them to run an ultra, training and race day tips, and the gripping story of their first ultramarathon. Prepare yourself to be inspired as you hear stories of grit, sometimes failure, but ultimately triumph when our guests finally cross the finish line. All right, welcome Melody and Jacob to the podcast. Super excited to have both of you here today. What a unique episode and chance I have to interview a couple. This is exciting.
Thanks. We're excited to be here.
Yeah, excited to be here, Brendan.
Thank you. Do y'all get to run together often, or do you often have to like divide and conquer? I know you have a young one at home. How does that look? I mean, I'm sure you'd like to run together, but
we would like to run together. That's how we started running, was we always ran together, but now it's divide and conquer.
Yeah.
So we have some pretty like sharp systems down.
We've been on
to get everything in.
We've been on a few hikes since having our kid. Our kid's 5 months old now. But I don't think we've actually run together since
it's been
having
a while.
a kid.
Yeah.
So it's been, we plan our workouts the day before. We're always talking, okay, you're gonna get your workout in this time, and then you take
this
time. So it's turned into divide and conquer.
Yeah.
Do you have like a calendar where you like have it down to a T, or is it like just in your heads? I'm just curious.
I have a calendar. I feel like you're more in your head with it, but I write everything down.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm the calendar person too. My wife, less so. But
I think that's how it goes.
You can just ask me. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, this is what we're doing. This is when you're going to the gym. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I do text her quite a bit more. I'm like, wait, like yesterday I was like, what time are you going to the gym tomorrow?
And I'm like, I told you 3 times.
Yeah, that's why I have the calendar, so I don't have to wonder. Yeah.
Right.
Otherwise I'd be asking all the time as well. That's super cool. Yeah, divide and conquer. Do you have a hiking backpack, like a super nifty cool backpack you stick your kiddo in? Yeah.
Yeah, he's not quite big enough to fit in the super nice one we have yet, but we have a soft one that we've carried him in. Yeah. Oh yeah, we're ready. We can't wait till it fits in that.
Yeah. I was the same way. I got the Osprey, like huge backpack that like,
that's what we got.
Carry all the diapers, and it's got sunshade and rain fly. It's like we're ready for but
great cross training,
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, it super works the legs. It totally works me different when I take Ellie on a hike.
Oh yeah.
And the backpack itself weighs almost like when she was little, it weighed as much as she did, honestly, which is terrible, but really fun. Okay, enough banter. Let's get into your story. Okay. I'd love to know when-ish y'all started running, and maybe you can individually answer that question. It might be different for both of you. Like, were you kids when you started like running track, or did it come later? How did that work for y'all?
Yeah, so it is a little bit different on our starting running story before we met. So I played sports growing up, but I never ran track or cross country. I didn't do any of that in high school. I just played basketball and tennis. So, but then I don't know, like my senior year of high school, I just started feeling the urge to just get out and go for a little run. So I had a guy in my church who was like, "Hey, I'm going to the track, next Saturday. Want to come with me?" So I was like, "Sure, why not? I got nothing else going on." So started running with him, and I ran a few times with him, and then I'm like, "Oh, I should go run at home." So I lived out in the country in Oklahoma, and so there was a lot of dirt farming roads around my house. So I would just go run like a 2-mile little run around these dirt farm roads. And I thought I was the coolest guy ever headed out there. So, and ever since then, I would like run 2 to 3 times a week. I knew I liked it, but I didn't like know anything about it. I just put on my normal everyday tennis shoes. And through college, I would just go run. I had a little 3-mile loop that I would go run a couple times a week. And I knew I liked it on the dirt because I'd always try to find the dirt roads to run around. So that's how it started. And that's pretty much kept that kind of attitude, just a few miles here and there until I met Melody.
And
Pause.
Yeah.
Awesome. And that's interesting. You liked the trails like early on. You liked trail more than road.
Yeah, maybe this is TMI right here, but I'm excited for this. I would go out on this dirt road in Oklahoma, right? There's nothing but fields around me, and I'd get to this gate, and that gate was my turnaround point. And every time there's no one around but cows, I would take a little pee on that gate.
Boom. That was essential.
That is still just
and it made me part of I don't know, it made me feel like a man. I don't know what, but I just felt good about life. Like, all right, I'll take a pee, look around, seeing the sunset, the fields, the wheat fields, and
there's nothing like the pee with the view.
Yeah. Then I'd turn around and go back home.
Yeah. That I connect with that like the fields thing there. I live in Hiram, Utah. So way up north, almost like Idaho. We've got sweet mountains nearby, but there's tons of like these rolling like farm fields, and I love running through these fields. It's so like in the morning when the sun's coming up, or I think especially in the morning, and the sun comes over and it just lights up the fields in this way. It's like it's just golden, and it's just amazing and beautiful, and I love it. It's like road running because I run on the roads near my home, but it's just so beautiful. It's rewarding to live in a beautiful place. So I get that.
Yeah.
Melody, tell me, what is your story? How'd you start?
Yeah, so my story actually started out in karate when I was really young. My dad he's now an 8th degree black belt in American Kempo karate, and I just always saw Dad doing karate, and so I got into karate, and that's kind of what got me into fitness. And then in junior high, they did like a little mini track team for a week that I went and did, and then in high school, I had some friends who were like, "Come do track with me." I had no idea what track was. All I knew was it was running, and so I went and tried it out. I really enjoyed it. And so that's kind of what got me into running. And after high school, I missed running and I wanted to keep running. I was actually a sprinter and a hurdler on the track team. But after high school, it felt weird just going to the track and sprinting, and I didn't really have anything to work towards. So I kind of got more into long distance running, and I signed up for some 5Ks and some 10Ks and some halves, and then anyway, so I was just kind of running casually, and right before I met Jacob, I was in a physical therapist assistant program, and I was lifting every other day and running every other day, just kind of for general fitness. Wasn't really working towards anything. But then we met, and things exploded from there.
Okay. Well, let's hear the continued story then.
Okay.
Whoever wants to continue that. What happened when you explosively met?
So
yeah, explain that.
like, okay, neither of us are really like we're casual runners at this point, right?
Like fitness. We've always kind of been fit throughout our lives.
Yeah. So we met on an online app, and
we met on mutual.
Melody's what you call it, her bio said looking for someone to run Spartan races with.
Oh, what?
And yeah,
let's go.
And
that's
so
so cool.
I had actually just signed up for a Spartan race. I had never run one, and I was like, sweet, I got it in with this girl. Look how hot she is. And now I got it's not going to be an awkward conversation starter, you know, because I'm signed up for a Spartan. And so we started chatting, and then, you know, started dating, and we both, you know, came to realize we liked working out. And so we started working out together.
I do have to throw this in. Our second date was actually a trail run.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. It was, and Jake was actually disappointed because I didn't run as fast as he thought I would.
Had to slow down.
Yeah, but I
don't actually even remember that part. I guess I said that to her. I don't remember saying that to her
later. But I fell in love with Jacob in that run because it was a snow run because it was in January when we first met. And it was just a quick 3-mile run. But I remember we were running back from this waterfall that we'd ran to, and there's this little hill, and Jacob saw, watch this, and he runs and he like dives on his belly and he like slides down this hill, and I was like, I love this man.
That's so fun.
Yeah. So anyways, so we did more, like, I was really big into Insanity at the time, the Sanity workouts. So like Melody would come over and we're like, let's do an Insanity round together, and you did like,
I was doing this Kayla It Signs workout. I don't know if you've ever heard of her, but it's kind of a female version of Insanity.
Yeah. So like we started doing some of these workouts together, and then we'd been dating a few months, and Melody,
like 3 months or something, and I had 2 free bibs to run the Morgan Valley Marathon because I volunteered there the year before, and I just thought it'd be a fun date because, you know, we like to work out together. So I called Jacob and I was like, hey, I have these 2 free bibs. And I was like, I know we were both in school at the time. Our lives were crazy. We were driving an hour back and forth to visit each other, you know, and I didn't think we actually had time to train for a marathon. So I was like, hey, like, I have these bibs. How about we use them, but drop down to the half? Like, it'd be a fun date. And Jacob just, I don't know, he just got really excited, and he was like, what if we actually did the marathon? And I was like, well, I don't know. And he's like, no, really. And then I started to think about it, and I was like, well, that would be pretty dang cool. And anyway, so then we decided to run a marathon.
8 weeks out.
Yeah, we trained for 8 weeks. And I just like hopped on the Google, you know, and looked up all the training plans and called. We honestly didn't really have friends or family who were runners, so we didn't really have anyone to like talk to.
I didn't consult anybody.
No, I like talked to people in like Facebook groups and things,
you
and
did much more research than me. I just thought I'd show up and run a marathon.
But I was like, no, we're gonna have a plan. So I created us this 8-week training plan that we stuck to almost perfectly, except I think there was one long run that we missed, and we decided to eat cake and watch TV instead. But we stuck to this training plan, and we went and we ran this marathon together, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
Did you like stick with each other the whole time? Like, yeah, okay, Jacob, tell us what you did. There it is.
We got some good stories from our first few races. So I got antsy we hadn't talked about this ahead of time about, are we sticking together or are we not?
Yeah.
And so it wasn't really clear.
For like the first 5 times.
So I ran with Melody like the first 5, and then I saw like that 4-hour marker for the marathon. The pacer was holding the little 4-hour marker, and I was like, Melody, I really wanted, like, I didn't even before the race, my goal was just to finish. I had no time goal. I'm just like, I just want to go out and finish. But I saw that 4-hour marker and I'm like, I want that. I was, and I ended up telling Melody, I was like, hey, and the 4-hour marker passed us, and I was like, hey, I think I really want to go see if I can do it in under 4 hours.
Well, I was like, that's fine. Like, go for it. Like, this is my pace. If you feel like you can run faster, then go for it.
Yeah.
But you're feeling a little bad.
It was a little bit sad, but it was okay.
Jacob's like, I'm leaving my GF in the dust.
Yeah. Just thought I
just wait till
him after the run. Just kidding.
Just wait till you hear a 50-mile story.
Yeah, but this is a little bit funny. I'm kind of notorious for getting lost. I just get in the zone and I
like in the zone.
I get in the zone and
there's
I totally
nothing
zone
but
out. Like I'm in a different dimension,
ahead.
and all of a sudden I like come back and I'm like, oh crap, where am I? And I somehow took a wrong turn and ended up running on like the freeway for like 2 miles. And anyways, one of the I remember thinking like, this is a weird route for a race. Like, why don't I see anybody else? But one of the volunteers saw me and they came and got me and brought me back to where I turned off. But I actually ended up running 28 miles instead of 26 miles. So looking back, I'm like, that was kind of like a foreshadow or something.
Your first ultra.
Yeah.
First ultra?
Yeah.
Dang. Oh, well, that's really cool. And that wasn't a detriment to you. You were still able to, just 2 miles, you were able to keep it up still. And
yeah,
you did great.
I mean, when I finally actually hit 26 miles and I still had 2 more to go, I was like, are you kidding me?
Did you finish like 30 minutes-ish behind me, right?
Yeah, because you were like 3:59 and then I ended with like 4:30.
So take away those 2 miles, you're really just like probably like 10 minutes behind me.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Which we were happy with for our first marathon.
Yeah, that's super solid. And you did it.
Yeah.
Jacob, you got your under 4.
3:59 47 seconds.
Oh my goodness, dude.
I bonked hard. I knew nothing about electrolytes or nutrition. So I literally didn't eat anything until like mile 23. And I had no electrolytes in me till mile 23. Well, that's if you count Coke as electrolytes, because that's I came into 23 thinking that I was literally gonna die, and the people are like, you got this, you're 3 miles. I'm like, I don't know if I got this. And the aid station volunteer had Coke there, and he's like, you need some of this, drink this. I'm like, soda while I'm running? Like, that sounds,
yeah, that was so weird.
What
at
the
the
heck?
time.
Like, that just seems counterintuitive. Like, and he's like, I promise you'll feel better. I'm like, okay. And then I like downed one of the cups. I'm like, okay, that actually feels nice. Give me one more. And so grabbed soda and peanut M&Ms, and it definitely helped bring me out of the dumps for the last 3 miles.
Yep, nutrition is important.
That's impressive that you got it. Like, also with like minimal planning. High five. I got to my marathon. I ran my first marathon just over a month ago. And was shooting for 4. But I didn't take into account aid station time really well, or stops for like the bathroom or whatever. So I ended up running a 4:04, and I was like, I'm still really happy with that. Like, it was really good. It was really close to 4, but I was like, if I just like taken the time to calculate the aid station fill-ups and I needed to go to the bathroom and extra time. You poop 2 times before your marathon, and you still have to poop again.
You're like,
just come on, body.
Hey, but now you know what to do next time, right?
Exactly.
You'll be able to shave off those 4 minutes. Yeah.
Exactly. Fun. That was a really fun story. Okay, so you ran this marathon together, and then you got married, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Basically.
This is it.
So we got married later that year.
Cool.
And then so we met in January, got married in December, and then
Oh, cool.
The following year, we both graduated from school and we both started working, and
barely running.
We were barely running. We kind of fell back
out.
into our habits
Just
of like, we're just kind of casually running, and we're trying to keep up our fitness. We just found ourselves in this like in these mundane patterns of, get up, go to work, come home, have dinner, go to sleep, repeat. And, we thought we had done what we were supposed to do, like we went to college, we got married, and like now we're supposed to like live happily ever after, right? And we're like, oh, there's more to life, and working all day every day, this is just super boring, and we need something to do. So Jacob started reading Can't Hurt Me, and I didn't want to read the book because of the language in it. And so what happened is Jacob would listen to the book, then he'd come home from work, and then he would tell me what he listened to. So I read the book through you, read the book vicariously through
I don't know how you
vicariously. Yeah.
It's cool. Anyways, and Jacob also had this lady at his work who wasn't her story like she decided she was going to do a marathon, but then she felt so good at the marathon point that she kept running and ended up running the 50 miler.
Yeah, there was a 50 miler going on, and apparently she could just keep running if she wanted to finish the 50, and she did. And I was like, whoa, I didn't even know people ran further than a marathon.
Yeah, we didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so we read Can't Hurt Me, and we heard that story, and we're like, let's sign up for a 50-mile race. And so we got on the laptop, looked up races, and we found the Bryce Canyon Ultra. That's the one that was the most exciting to us.
So it's January at this time, and Bryce is in May.
Yeah. So we signed up for this race, and I still remember us like sitting like in our pajamas, like on the bed with our laptop, and then us like clicking the submit button, like pay. And then we're like, oh gosh, we did it.
Yeah, I remember like we were like, what have we gotten into?
We're like, holy
really?
Yeah. Did you like consider the training that you were going to need to do before you signed up?
By this point we're like, we're gonna have to buckle down a little more, do a little more research.
Can't just coke our way through this one, maybe.
Yes.
So it was back to the Google, back to the Facebook groups. I built us a plan, and this time it was 15 weeks. So
16, I think.
Oh, 16.
Double the distance, double the
landing time.
Yeah. Again, we followed this plan, and we were just blown away that we are running eventually 4 times a week instead of just 3 times a week. We just thought that was so much running.
And then here's the best thing, on our 2 days a week we're not running, we're like, okay, those are cross train days, like
that's when we'll do our insanity.
I'll do insanity or whatever. And that didn't happen.
We didn't do any of our cross training. We were so burnt.
You're like,
when we didn't have to run.
Yeah. I remember just thinking, I'm just so happy to have a day off.
And our days off were like vegging in front of the TV.
Yeah.
So we did.
So but
you're putting in lots of miles.
And that's we really though discovered the trails training for that, because we're like, okay, it's a trail race, it's our first. We gotta
get on the trails. Yeah.
And we had just moved it was in a basement apartment that we lived in, and they literally had a trail that went out behind their backyard. And so we could just go
hop on the trail straight up
into the mountains. That trail led straight in the mountains. So we were so lucky. We moved there we moved there just because it was cheap rent. Like it was the best.
There were trails,
and it was a good location between the two of our work. It had nothing to do with the trails being right there. So we just really lucked out. I guess you could say God blessed us on that. He knew what we were gonna do, I guess, and so that trail was right there. So we were able to basically every run be on the trails, which was awesome. And that's where we started to fall in love with the trails and like, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah, converted you from road running.
Yeah.
Yeah. for sure.
Yeah.
We also, when we trained, we ran as hard as we possibly could on every run.
Yeah, these are just all our mistakes.
Yeah.
We went
definitely explain more about that. These folks listening may have no idea why that would be a bad thing. What is your thinking?
Go ahead.
So we ran as hard as we possibly could in every run, and we tried to PR in every run. We got used to these. We had these certain routes that we would take, and we would run them and try to run them faster every time. And the reason you don't want to do that is because we basically, I'm trying to figure out how in depth I want to get into this. But are the listeners familiar with like the 5-zone training or like 80-20 running?
Some may be, it's, go ahead and explain it.
Okay.
Just do it.
Okay. So, we later on learned about 80-20 running, where you want to spend 80% of your total run volume in or running easy, and then 20% of your total run volume running really hard. And then there's this kind of middle ground that you want to avoid. So there's 5 different zones: zone 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and a low intensity. So where you want to spend 80% of your time is in zone 1 and zone 2. And then high intensity, where you want to spend 20% of your time, zone 4 and zone 5. And then zone 3 is kind of that black hole zone, or those junk miles. And when Jacob and I were training for this 50, we were in our zone 3 in these black hole miles all the time, where we're running too hard to be able to recover, which is why we're vegging in front of the TV every other night. But we're not running fast enough for like really good anaerobic adaptations. So the trick is to, like I said, run most of your runs slow so you can build a solid foundation. And the bigger / more solid your running foundation is, the more room you have to build speed and strength on top of that. And your speed and strength comes from that high intensity work in your zone 4 and zone 5.
So
that's really helpful. Thank you.
That's why when people are always like, I hate running. I tried running once and I just got hurt. Well, that's because
they're busting themselves.
They're in zone 3 the whole time because they were out there just pushing it, trying to PR every run.
It's not fun when you try to kill yourself every time. Like most of your runs should be easy. You should finish your runs feeling like you could have kept going.
Yeah.
Like that was just fun and nice.
Most of that run, you should be able to talk to someone if they're running next to you. Hold a conversation. Like that's to me is the best indication that you're at the right speed. You're going slow enough. If you cannot hold a conversation, if someone were next to you, then you need to slow down.
Yeah. The way I describe zones based off of RPE, or rate of perceived exertion. So how hard does it feel? So zone 1 is like we're having a conversation like we're having right now. Super easy. You're walking basically. And then zone 2, like Jacob was saying, you can still have a comfortable conversation. It might feel a little bit harder. Maybe not quite as easy as this, but you can still have a comfortable conversation. Zone 3 is when now it's hard to have a conversation. You can, but you're kind of talking in between like gasps and breaths. Zone 4, you could maybe get out 1 or 2 words. Like you're not going to be able to talk in zone 4. And then zone 5, this is like you're giving it 110%. You're going so hard, like you can't say anything.
If someone tries to talk to you, you just flip them off.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's off. Busy here. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was one of our
rundown.
Yeah, that was like probably our biggest mistake, one of the many that we made. But like what we like to share is that we made tons of mistakes training for our first marathon, our first 50, our first 100,
and we still made tons of mistakes,
but we still did it.
Yeah,
we still survived it. It goes to show like there's a lot that needs to go into it, and the more planning, the more research, the more preparation you do will probably help, but you don't have to be perfect to run these great
you don't have to know everything. The trick is literally to just to just hit that button and
Yeah.
sign up for that race.
Yeah. You don't have to know it all, because it's gonna hurt, but you can do it. I mean, we've learned that ultra running is pretty much 90% mental, 10% physical.
Basically.
That's nuts. That's really helpful. Yeah. Like my marathon, I was kind of like you, Jacob. I had like a really I was putting in the miles every week. I was like, I think if I run around marathon distance every week, like total. So, a 6 mile run here, 6 mile run here, half marathon, long run. I was like, if I do that, then I'll probably be able to finish the marathon according to, some people online. And I've like really loosely followed that. And, I made it almost 4 hour marathon.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
It's pretty loose planning. I did do the nutrition stuff. Like I was pretty honed in on that, but no, I haven't run an ultra yet. For listeners listening, I've mentioned that a few times, but no, from what I gather from you folks who have, it's huge mental game. Yeah, I mean, even the marathon, it hits you like this is long.
Oh
it's
yeah,
long.
Yeah, I still look back at that marathon that we did, and I was just like, that was hard.
It was
like,
hard, yeah.
Like we hit those walls. You're going at that pace that long. Like you don't run mile paces in ultras. At least we don't. The top guns do, but we don't. And so it's a different kind of hard. But yeah, marathons take grit, take determination to get through on those roads with how that repetitive motion on a road. It beats you up.
Oh yeah.
What's your, I don't know if this is a good question or not, but do you have a like ultra running pace that you usually stick to? I know, some ultras are way uphill and maybe, that changes your pace, but is there like a average pace you try to hit during your ultras?
That's an awesome question. And that's something that we didn't really know when we switched from roads to trails. You are going to slow down on the trails, just because they're more technical. There's more hills, there's more obstacles. And I mean, I don't think you necessarily, I'm all about running based off of how you feel, not based off of your paces. And your paces are going to vary so much depending on how recovered you are, how fit you are, how long you've been running, but mainly like what kind of terrain you're on. Are you on a flat trail, or are you on rolling hills, or are you peaking a mountain? If you're really, really fast, like 8 or 9 minutes, to, maybe it takes you 25 minutes, a mile, because you're hiking up a mountain. So and then again, it depends. Like maybe things average out. Maybe you hike up a mountain and then you run down the mountain, and that averages out to like, 11 or 12 or 13 minutes, or in our case, I don't know, 16 minutes. But maybe you just hike to the top and then you take a tram back down, and so it doesn't average out. Anyways, it depends on a lot of things.
Yeah.
So
well, that's really helpful to say, in a 100-miler, for instance, like how much of that are you walking? Like a mountain 100-miler, let's say, like Wasatch 100. I don't know if you've done that, but
all uphills you're walking. So that's like the race. So yeah, what my mindset when I go in to do a mountain 100 is, I'm hiking the hills, and pretty much any uphill I'm hiking it, and I try to hike with purpose still, not just
it's a speed hike. You're not just leisurely hiking. Yeah.
Until the end. At the end, you're just
trying to survive.
Body up to the top. But and then any flats or downhills, you just try to hit with a light jog. That's it. Like I don't even know what my pace is average. Okay, I've done 300s. And I think, I don't know, what does 36 hours average out to to an average pace? Is that like 18, 19-minute miles, some 20-minute miles, something like that?
Something like
Because
that.
you're stopping at aid stations. There's steep climbs where you're giving it your all, but it's still giving you a 25-minute mile, and so it's very slow going, like my light jogs are probably anywhere from 16 to 14-minute miles. I'm rarely hitting below 14-minute miles, but I'm a backpacker, so I'm basically just trying to finish before the cutoff. So that's kind of what I'm doing most of the time when I run 100 miles.
That's really helpful. Like that, to me, that's really helpful perspective, because, on a road or a trail run, like through a canyon, like, which is usually what I do, and that's pretty flat, with some little hills, but like I can keep a pretty solid pace on roads and canyon runs, like probably 11 and under, usually like a 10 average is probably what I'm doing a lot of the time. But yeah, ultra running, doing these huge hills or mountains and whatever. Yeah, it's really helpful perspective to understand, like, yeah, you're doing like 14 to 16, maybe even 20 plus minute miles, and it's okay. It's just weird because you think race, you're like, oh yeah, I'm running. But no,
Right.
it's different.
It's an endurance mindset.
Yeah.
It's just try to stay fresh for as long as you can kind of mindset. Like, don't go out too hot. Take it easy, because if you burn out at mile 20, you got 80 more miles left to go, bud. So we always say, like, with hundreds, you want the first 50 to feel relatively easy. I know that sounds crazy.
You want to be in shape enough to be able to run 50 miles
somewhat comfortably. And it's crazy how when your mindset changes to where you just know you're going 100, how like everything, like
then 50 miles doesn't feel like that
like
much, because you're like, oh, that's just half.
Yeah. So. And so if you can make it to the first 50, through the first 50 feeling relatively okay, then the next 50, that's just where you put your head down and grind it out.
That's a mental step.
Yeah.
This was really great advice. We left off before talking about this awesome advice, I think, sort of in your 50 mile. I think a lot of listeners will be considering 50Ks and 50 milers more like the beginning level ultra distances, if you can consider a 50 miler that. I mean, it's sort of in the middle, right?
Yeah.
But I'd love to hear about how the 50 miler went for both of you. I know you mentioned maybe before a recap on the training you did. You were training like you ran 4 days a week.
Yeah.
And you didn't do much cross training.
No, basically nothing.
I'm
basically
going to watch
just
TV.
Ran, which that was another mistake. Everyone who's listening, please strength train.
Yes. Life would have been a lot better at the end of our 50 had we strength trained.
Even if that means running less miles, like run less miles so you can get your strength training.
Yeah, we're big believers in that. Yeah.
Anyways,
Melody is a trainer, and she does weightlifting, and this is great advice. I get this advice from others who also do weightlifting and ultras, and I'm sure it makes your life so much easier, especially afterwards, not dying,
sure.
Maybe.
Yeah, for sure.
So first 50,
like Jacob on this.
Let's go.
We had two opposite experiences, I feel like.
We did.
So we decided, this time we talked about it. We're like, are we running together or separate? Well, of course we didn't talk about it till the night before.
but we decided to run it together.
Yes. We decided what mattered most to the both of us was that the both of us finish, because it just wouldn't have been as sweet, if one of us finishes and one of us doesn't. Like, so we're gonna do whatever it takes to get the both of us there. And so we start off, and things were for me, I was feeling great. I was feeling fresh. I was just hyped to be there. Excited about to be running through the mountains all day. Gonna do 50 miles.
This is Bryce?
Yeah.
Or is this
Bryce?
Yeah.
Bryce Canyon 50 miler.
Mm-hmm.
Now there, I remember there's a lot of runners that start. It was pretty packed like at the start, and so you get into this big line. They call it conga lines in ultra running. So we get behind this one girl, and I'm like, oh, she's holding a really good pace. I'm like, and my thinking was, we need a bank time now so we can just collapse in the end and walk it in if needs be. Like, if everything falls apart, we'll have banked enough time where we could even just walk it in. So I'm pushing Melody. I'm like, hey, we need to stick with this girl, and so.
And I immediately was like kind of angry. My idea was I wanted to pace ourselves and not burn out too fast. But we never talked about any of this.
We don't talk about initial strategy.
Yeah. So now Jacob's running super fast, and I'm trying to keep up with him, and I'm just like feeling this anger like bubbling up inside me, like he is trying to burn us out. Yeah.
Who have I married?
Who have I married?
This is our first year of marriage.
You get married after the marathon, divorced after the 50.
That's exactly.
JK.
but it's our first year of marriage, and we're still learning how to communicate, and
totally.
And I just got angry instead of like communicating with them. But eventually I was like,
the funny story here, the first time I heard her swear was on this 50, where as we are, Melody's got a angel's mouth. Yeah. She had an angel's mouth before she met me. And then as we're climbing up this, it's a big climb at like mile 8.
I still feel the pain in my quads going up that. My quads were burning.
I hear Melody just swearing repeatedly. And I had to ask her, I'm like, are you saying that? What I think you're saying? And she's like, yes, it makes things feel better. Or I'm like, okay. And so I just,
running will pull out those sides of you.
So we just kept moving up the mountains. But anyway, so we made it to the first aid station at mile 9. And that was the first time we saw an ultra running aid station. And we saw the spread of like snacks and treats and Coke.
And real food. Like there were burritos and potatoes.
Mile 9?
Yeah. Yeah. I know.
All right.
But I remember just being in shock, and I'm like, I love buffets. Like, yeah, buffets are my thing. And so well, I paid like $300 to be here. I better get my money's worth. Because I remember thinking that, and
I'm about to grab 2 burritos.
Yeah, I had both hands stuck full of food leaving that age. And I took a whole can of Coke. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this worked on my marathon. So anyways, so then we kept moving out.
And I don't think I didn't really eat that much.
No, you weren't near as excited as me at that spot.
No, I never really ate when I ran. Like I just didn't know how to eat and run at the same time, and I just didn't really eat anything. And so we keep going. And what was the aid station where?
It was like mile 18, I think, where
I thought it was like 18 or 19.
It was 18. So probably about the next one.
So you got there before me. So
not really. Right? No, we came in together. We came in together.
You remember the details better than me, but
things were starting. You were really struggling.
I was
at this point,
and I now know I was bonking really hard because I had barely drinking or eaten anything at this point. But at the time, all I knew was I just felt terrible. I was super grumpy, and I was starting to doubt if I was gonna be able to finish this.
Yeah.
And then we had a little fight.
So we were you were really grumpy, and I was like, you were like, I think I need to use the bathroom. I'm like, okay, like, yeah, go use it. I'll wait around. And I just start gorging down on more Oreos and whatever. And
power fuel.
Yeah. And then but I'm starting to feel antsy because I'm like, oh,
we're at this AC.
I feel like we were there a long time.
I didn't know what to do. I just felt terrible.
Yeah, you were in the bathroom, and I'm like, I don't know and then I'm starting to get worried about you. And so then we start walking out. And you start telling more about what's going on.
I'm embarrassed by this story now.
And so
Too late.
Melody starts talking, and she was chafing pretty bad too, right?
Oh
Right.
yeah, that's the
And
worst.
she told me she was chafing before we came in, and so I thought she was taking care of that in the bathroom. And then I was like, well, did you apply some powder in the bathroom?
See, and I wasn't good at taking care of myself because I also was like, we gotta go, we gotta
Yeah.
go. And so I was like, I don't have time to apply anything,
Yeah, you told me, you're like, no, I didn't have time.
And it's like, we just gotta go,
Yeah, and then that upset me. I'm like, what were you doing in the bathroom? I'm like, and I'm like, well, turn around and go put chafing balm on you. And you're like, no, we have to go. And like you said it, like we need a big time. And yeah, I wasn't being very.
think your anxiety was rubbing
Yes.
off on me.
Yeah, I was
too, 'cause
having.
you were so
Yeah.
anxious, and
Yeah.
I was like, I think that's one reason I was trying to go so
Yeah.
fast because I knew you were
Yes.
annoyed.
I didn't handle it very well.
Neither of us did.
Yeah, so I'm like pushing Melody when she shouldn't be pushed at this point. And then finally, like, we were just butting heads in this argument as we're walking out of mile 18. and I said, I was like, well, I don't want to babysit you anymore.
And that just like was the last straw for me. I got so mad.
Yeah.
And I just stopped talking to you, right?
Yeah.
I was like, I'm just done.
We were both upset at each other because we both were stressed about finishing 50 miles and we didn't know how to like run it together. And so at that point, I just started running ahead.
You ran ahead, and I remember that made me really angry too. You ran ahead, but then it turned into like Jacob would run ahead and then he would wait for me at the aid station.
Yeah, but this is how that happened is I ran ahead and I'm like, okay, we just need to cool off, and I was like,
some alone time.
I'm going to wait at the next aid station for Melody. So that's mile 25. So the halfway point, we get there and I'm still feeling like physically I'm great. And so I get there and I'm waiting for Melody and I'm waiting and waiting. I've waited.
Time.
I don't know.
Again, I'm like bonking so hard at this point.
I wish I would have known how long I was there. I didn't have a running watch at the time, so I have no clue how long, but it was probably more than 30 minutes.
And so I came in and I'm just as grumpy as ever. Still have barely eaten or drinking anything.
And you barely talk at this point.
Yeah.
And you're just like, I don't know if I can do this.
And you were like, you need to eat something. And you gave me some Oreos. I think I ate like a quesadilla.
Avocado quesadilla.
An avocado quesadilla and like 3 Oreos or something. So it wasn't even that much food. But I realized that's what I needed. And then I feel like I got this like second wind.
Yeah. We sat there for like 15 minutes.
Ate some food.
You ate some food. And then that's when we were like, okay, running together isn't working right now. And so we were like, how about we just run to the next aid station?
We'll just run our pace, and whoever gets to the aid station first will wait for the next person.
And we both agreed on that. Yes. So that way we're still kind of together, but we don't have to feel like you have to keep the same pace as the other person. Mm-hmm. And we can check in on each other at every aid station. And so
cool plan. Yeah. Can I pause you for 1 second?
Yeah.
You talked about, this problem with nutrition. Was this something that you had planned before? You're like, I'm going to do these things. And then you like didn't stick to the plan, or had you not really thought through what you wanted to do? No plan for nutrition. Okay.
Still at this point in our running game, like we didn't eat anything during all of our training runs. Like we didn't eat anything. And I didn't know what I thought on this 50. Like I don't even remember. But there's no plan.
And drinking too, like electrolytes or like.
So Melody bought salt tabs the week.
Salt tabs.
The week before the race.
Yeah.
We had not used them on any
tabs.
Any run.
And we're just doing what the bottle said to do, like take one of these every 30 minutes.
So we were, and that's not probably why I was feeling so good. I was like, man, I feel way better than my training runs.
Plus, I'm just like going buffet
and I was going
buffet at every aid station.
So like I was feeling great because I was for the first time ever, taking electrolytes and eating. Not really planned it out, but it just so happened to be that way. So,
and Jacob, like that sat well with you too. Like I'm imagining eating burritos during a race and like totally dumping it all. So
it was okay at first, but at the latter part, my stomach did turn.
Well, wait then.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thanks for letting me ask that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's pick up where we were. I think you're leaving 25.
Yes.
Aid station.
Yeah.
Through.
And at this point, I'm like, I don't know if Melody's finishing this because you were so low. And so I texted some family and friends. I'm like, hey guys, send some prayers for Melody. Like I'm doing fine, but she's really feeling it and really feeling low. And so we get to the next aid station at like mile 32 or 33. And I get in, I'm feeling good. And I see family and friends are meeting us there. And so I see family and friends, and I'm like, hey guys, how's it going? And then I immediately tell them, I'm like, guys, I don't know what's going on with Melody. She's not doing well.
And you told them like we might be here a while.
Yep. And then I turn around after saying that, and they're like, there's Melody. And Melody's literally just a couple minutes behind me.
And this, that was my favorite leg of the entire race because most of it was downhill. Downhill technical running is my favorite, and I ate that food, and I just remember like I was like a new person. I was like, this is so fun, and I was just passing people, and the rest of the run, up until the very last part where we were struggling, that's when I finally was really enjoying it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just
was like mile 25 to what was that?
To like 30. You did.
Yeah.
Pretty much mile 25 to the 40-ish mark. You were on fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quesadillas.
Yeah.
Quesadillas and Oreos.
Yeah.
Oreos. And like, did that hit you immediately? Like, oh man, spike of energy, or did it take time to like, metabolize and like, oh, now I'm feeling it half an hour later. I'm like, oh, now the energy's here. I'm just curious.
It was almost immediately. Honestly, I want to say it was like the second that Oreo like touched my tongue, I was like, whoa, like a new person. I was like, I really needed this. Yeah. And I'm sure a lot of runners have experienced that kind of second wind where you feel really yucky and then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, I feel great again. And the funny thing with road running and trail running is I feel like up to half marathon, you might get that second wind, once you have a little dip and then you kind of hit it again. And I feel like in a marathon, you might hit that a few times where you kind of get a dip and then you feel better and then a dip and you feel better. And in an ultra, it just happens all the time. It's like dip and then second wind and then third wind and then fourth wind and then fifth wind.
Lots of winds.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, with how long it is, it makes sense.
Right. So, and then at that point we both were doing good. We were both having fun. And then it was somewhere between mile 40 and mile 45 when we both bonked pretty hard again.
Yeah.
At one point we both just sat down in the middle of the trail and we were like, oh no, if we can do this.
Yeah, like I had made the mistake of my mom was there and then met me at mile 38 aid station, and she's had a Gatorade powder, and I was like, oh sure, that sounds great. Like that
Never
can't
had it
hurt.
before, yeah.
Never had it before, so I threw it in my bladder. Like that, a little hose that came out and you suck the hose.
Yeah.
Threw it in my bladder. So then I didn't have any water. I just had Gatorade, and
the Gatorade didn't sit.
Gatorade didn't sit well, and it made me sick. So I barely drank a thing from mile 38 to 50.
Yeah, and I wasn't drinking as much as I should have. I still had only eaten a little bit. Like I still had only had like this quesadilla and a few Oreos. And I think at the aid station before I ate a little bit more, but still not a lot. So, and it was hot.
Yeah.
I remember it was really hot.
Yeah.
So we just bonked. And then if anyone has run Bryce or has thought about running Bryce, the last like 6 to 8 miles is like straight uphill, basically.
It feels like it.
It feels like it.
Are you like coming out of the canyon at that point?
Yeah. It's like the rudest.
It's not the most pretty part either. You kind of gone through
it's so rude.
Gone through the drop dead gorgeous orange hoodoo
Red
section.
Rocks
Yeah. So now it's just more like a little bit more deserty with the sagebrush and cedar trees. So I mean, it's still honestly beautiful, but compared to what you were just at, you're just like, oh, this kind of sucks.
And you just don't really notice anything at this point because you're in so much pain.
Yeah.
And so we walked the rest of it. I think the last few miles we had like 30-minute splits, and it was just a trudge to the finish line.
Yeah.
But
how many miles do you think?
I want to say
last
like
3.
Well, I'd say we trudged like mile 42 to 48 was basically
okay.
Yeah.
48 to 50 that is the downhill
that was
part.
downhill, and
we kicked it in for the last 2 miles.
Yeah, that was fun. But even though that part was so hard and we were in so much pain, that is still, I think, my favorite memory from that race is just like struggling together. We were both it was like almost funny, like we were kind of like laughing to keep from crying, but we were like in it together, and at this point it's like no one was like faster than the other person. We were both just trying to survive, and honestly that was my favorite part.
We actually ran the last 13 miles together because at that point we were both just
and that's what always happened
we were going the same
when we ran together. We'd always end up at the same pace. So
that's so cool. Side note, I just think because you were able to run a 50-miler together and you didn't kill each other or anything, I think you're gonna make it till you die. I think you're good. I think your marriage is gonna last.
Told us.
Yeah.
People are like, if you can run 100 miles together, then you guys can get through anything together. So seriously, anyone who wants to really strengthen your marriage,
it honestly, like,
I hate you.
When we go on long runs, it becomes almost
it's like couples therapy.
Yeah.
We go through about every emotion where like we'll be kind of butting heads and getting a little fight, and then one of us runs ahead, and then we come back together and we're like, okay, let's actually now talk about this.
I feel like that's how it was for a long time, but I feel like right before I got pregnant and we stopped running together, I feel like we got to a point where we just knew how to communicate with each other and just say, hey, this is how I'm feeling today. This is the pace I want to go. And I feel like we didn't really fight anymore because we just knew how to communicate.
We learned running taught us how to communicate.
Exactly.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
This is, man, okay. Yeah. Advice for everyone. We all just have to make our significant other run with us. Okay. Like, even if they don't want to, I'm making my wife, she loves the gym, but I'm going to make her run with me instead.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
anyway.
Funny.
Okay. So you're at the very end. Yeah. How was running in? How did that feel? Yeah.
Yeah. That
physically and emotionally and everything.
For me, and I feel like you will agree with this. I think you had the same experience here, but this was like the best finish line I've had out of every single finish line I've ever crossed. This was like a spiritual experience for me. Like, because I just had never pushed myself that hard before. My body hurt more than it's ever hurt in my life. And I crossed that finish line and I was just broken. Like I couldn't walk. Like how you would expect your very first ultra to go, And I remember we had some friends and family there and they had chairs ready for us, and I just plopped down in the chair and I remember just crying and I was just proud. Like, I can't believe we did that. And also it meant a lot to me that we did it together. And I just kept thinking about me and Jacob crossing the finish line together, and that I would have that thought and I'd start crying again. And it was just, and I almost had this like out of body experience, like, whoa, like, did I just do that? So that, it was awesome. It was really, really awesome.
It was not quite as like dramatic, I guess, for me.
I never had another dramatic finish like that, but for some reason that one really.
Mine was mainly just relief, I guess. I felt relieved that we did it and that both of us finished. Maybe that just goes to show I had too much anxiety going on. But yeah, it was relief. I remember actually thinking I was like, this actually wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. But like it was hard, but
I
like
still couldn't walk for a couple weeks after that.
well, no, like
yeah,
Not hard. Not that hard. I just can't walk.
I guess like mentally
could have ran it faster though.
I was expecting to like go to a place where like during the race where I was like, I guess Melody went to this place though, but I guess I never went to the place of like, I don't know if I can do this. I guess I felt pretty solid. And by the time things started to deteriorate, I knew I could just walk it in at that point. And so like I was almost a little bit disappointed that I didn't, because that's why I actually signed up for that. Is like I was like, I read this book by David Goggins and all about mental toughness. Yeah. And I'm like, I want to find like who I am. I want to learn something more about me, you know? And I guess I didn't feel like I really got it in that race. I just always knew I'd finish it. I guess I trained too well for it.
Yeah.
You know, when you train with no electrolytes and then you use electrolytes on race day, all of a sudden you're like, whoa, this is easy.
but nobody actually do that.
Yeah.
Practice before race day.
But it's still like I felt relieved that we got it done. And honestly, I knew when we crossed the finish, I was like, I got to do 100.
I think that's what led us to the 100.
I'm like, okay, I didn't get it out of the 50. So I think I got to do 100.
Right.
Dang. You know, I'd like to relate to you, Jacob. You know, I felt the same way. Like when I finished my marathon, before I was hoping like, yeah, I hope I'll like feel, like the spiritual experience, like that Melody explained, like, wow, be really impressed with myself and like, just have that moment. But it didn't happen. Yeah, it didn't happen for me either. I felt, like relieved. Like the last 2 miles, I was like, I just want to be done. This isn't even fun anymore.
Yeah.
I just want to be done. And then I was like, and I was like, yeah, this is awesome that I did this. But also, I think I knew I could. And so I just met my expectation. I don't know. Maybe I like having this conversation with people because some people have the spiritual amazing moment at the end and some people don't. And I think it's okay either way, but I'd like to know why it happens sometimes and doesn't other times.
So can I give you a time where I did feel this?
Yeah.
So my second 100-mile race, I actually feel like I have gotten this moment on all 300s, but it never comes at the finish line. It's during the race that it happens. Super actually
interesting. Yeah.
And my theory is it comes when you feel utterly defeated, but then something happens to where you realize you can't, and you want to quit. Every bone of you wants to be done.
It's like you break past a barrier, a new barrier.
And something happens after where you're ready to call it, or you just feel like it's not possible. Something happens where it clicks in your mind that, okay, I think I'm actually going to do this, and this is going to suck to go 20 more miles or whatever, 5 more miles, whatever the distance is. It's going to really suck, but you know what? I'm not quitting. I'm just going to do this. So like one experience on my second 100, it was called the Ute 100 down in the mountains above Moab, Utah. And Melody was pacing me for the last section. And I came in the last section at mile 80, and Melody was going to do the last 20 with me. And I felt defeated. I just gone through the night. My gut had completely gone. I couldn't eat anything. I could barely drink anything. Every time I took a sip of water, I felt nauseous. And I was about to make the biggest climb of the race, up to 12,000 feet is what the peak of the mountain goes to. Here I'm 80 miles in.
He was in rough shape. Yeah. Like just imagine like the most broken man you've ever seen. Just covered in dirt, sweat, and boogers. He's like crying. He's like gagging.
Well, and so I wanted to quit. And I kind of tried to like tell Melody, like, I want to quit. Like I was telling Melody, I'm like, how am I supposed to make it up to the top of this mountain and I can't get any food in me? You know, like that's not even safe. Like to be going, I haven't eaten anything for the last 6 hours and now I'm supposed to go hike up to 12,000 feet. You know, like this isn't safe. Like I probably shouldn't do this. And Melody's just like, no, come on, Jacob, you got this, pushing me along. And so they had me drink some soda pop, and I was able to get that down. And Melody's like, hey, we're gonna load up your bottles with soda pop.
We had Coke,
what you gotta do?
Ginger ale.
Coke and ginger ale in my flasks.
Yeah.
That's your thing, man.
Yeah, and we start hiking up the mountain, and as we're hiking up the mountain, Melody's like she asked something about like, you've got these text messages, people are cheering you on, and I was like, no, like I'm not looking at my phone. I'm so just in this race trying to survive. I can't read a text. And so I was like, will you read them? And Melody starts reading these text messages that friends and family had sent to either her or me. And I remember feeling all that support and like people like, you got this. I believe in you. You're inspiring me. Like you're one tough mama jama. Keep it up. Don't quit. You got this. And just, it felt like 20 different texts had come throughout the day. And like, I felt so much love in that moment from those people. And I couldn't believe that all these people took time out of their day to even text me and to like tell me that they believed in me, you know? And right then at that moment, I was like, I can't quit, because before that I wanted to quit, you know? And like, just like all these people believe in me, I got to keep moving forward, you know? And I, it's so cheesy, but I worked at scout camps growing up, and then a scout song came to mind for me, and how it starts off with the words of the lyrics are, on my honor, I will try. And it gets me choked up even now. But you know, whew.
I know that, but
jeez.
You're making me teary eyed too.
So those two lines, on my honor, I will try. And after hearing all those text messages, I was like, I haven't tried. I haven't given it my all. And now is the time to give it my all. Like my honor, it's my duty to try right now. And so that song came to mind, and I started like singing it, and I literally ugly cried my way up that mountain. Melody will tell you, she even's got a video of it.
While he was singing this song,
I sang this scout song, climbing up this mountain at mile 85, and it just somehow like
it got you to the top of the mountain.
Yeah, and I don't know, there's not a lot of moments where I felt so much love and support than then. Here was my wife, you know, pacing me. She had been with me the whole day before, meeting me at every aid station, you know, and my brother had driven out. My father-in-law had paced me through the night, and I was like, holy cow, like you just felt such an outpouring of love. Like you couldn't believe that all these people loved you enough to do what they were doing. And so that was what I did, and got down the mountain, finished the race. And when I finished it at the 100-mile mark, I felt honestly nothing but
there was
relief.
A cowbell. There's one cowbell, and he like got his belt buckle and he sat down, and that was it.
Yeah, that was it. And I'm like, okay, let's go to the hotel room so I can get out of the sun.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's always been a moment in every 100. We had them in our first 100 together as well.
We call it the finish line before the finish line. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I love those. Those moments are just beautiful, and I appreciate it every time someone's open enough to share those spiritual, like, with you moments where you overpower. It's also good to know that that happens. Yeah, not at the end, but when you push through something that you didn't know you could.
And maybe for some people it does happen at the end.
Yeah.
Sometimes it does.
And sometimes it does, yeah.
Yeah.
Like for you.
Yeah. But that's why ultras are the best. Is those experiences, the things that you take away from them. That's why we keep doing them.
Well said. If you could give those folks that are listening, those folks that maybe they're just starting to run, thinking about doing an ultra, but they don't know if they can do it. They've got the doubt. They're waiting to push the submit button, like you said. What would you tell those folks?
I would say stop waiting. Just click it. Click the submit button, and I mean, you just got to do it. And my dad has this saying, redefine what's possible. And if you've never ran a 50K or 50 miles before, it seems impossible, right? But think back to when you first started running. A 5K probably seemed impossible, but then you did it and you redefined what was possible, right? And then a 10K, that seemed impossible, but then you did it. Then a half marathon, that seemed impossible, then you did it. It's the same thing. A 50K, maybe that seems impossible, but sign up and do it, and you can do it. You will do it. And then, it just keeps going from there. And what's cool is you can always go up in distance. You can always increase your speed. There's always things you can work on. You can continue to redefine what's possible for the rest of your life.
Well said.
Yeah.
What about you, Jacob?
Similar terms. I would say you're going to surprise yourself. You don't have to be perfect. You're not going to have a perfect training plan. Your race isn't going to go perfectly, but you're going to, if you just show up to that start line, you're going to surprise yourself with what you're capable of.
Thank you. I feel like we're feeling solemn, and I love that. And now I'm going to break that by saying, yeah, if Jacob could get by with Coke, you can do it too. So
exactly.
Moral of the story, Coke.
Moral of the story.
That's a secret ingredient.
Yeah, Coke's the secret weapon. That's all you need.
Yeah.
Thank you both so much. Your stories hit home for me, and I'm sure they will with the listeners here.
Hey.
Where can folks keep up with y'all? I know you have your own podcast, your own things you're doing revolving around, especially running 100-milers, but please share where folks can follow you and keep up with you.
Yeah. So were you about to say something?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. So I just wanted to say, yeah, Brendan, thanked us for coming on the show. Wanted to thank you for having us on the show and for what you do with helping beginner ultra runners or people who are looking to get into running, because I think that's so valuable. I guess it goes into the aspect of, like my top advice, like you're going to surprise yourself with what you're capable of doing, is that we hear about all these elite athletes running like crazy miles and doing crazy mileage weeks, and it's not, you don't have to be the elites in order to run ultras, and so I love that you bring other normal, ordinary people on, because honestly, they're the real heroes. They don't get paid to do any of this stuff, and here they are out there, finding time to push themselves amongst having families and jobs and all that. So anyways, but
for sure,
if you want to find us, if you want to find us, we have our podcast called Trail to 100. It's on any podcasting platform. Like you said, our specialty is the 100-mile distance. Our mission is to enable others to run their first 100-mile race. So we bring on normal people such as yourself onto the podcast who have just done their first 100. And we also bring on some coaches here and there so that we can get those training and the advice on how to get there. So, and then we ourselves document our journey as well. We do a once-a-month episode where we talk about what we're learning as we go through our journey. But that's on any podcasting platform, Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, whatever it is.
And you can also find us on Instagram, Trail to 100. We have a website, which is where we put most of our information, trail100.com.
Yeah. Sweet. Yeah, that's perfect. trail100.com. And they can find everything from there, I imagine, the podcast as well. And yeah, all of it.
Podcast, coaching, swag, all the stuff. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I want to shout out Melody as a coach. I mean, we had some sweet advice given today. She knows her stuff. So if you are looking for a coach, yeah, Melody is your person.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Thanks so much for your time. We'll have to have you back on again sometime. This was really special. I'll come to your podcast sometime when I'm doing my 100 miler. That
Let's
will come.
Do it.
Yes.
We want to document your 100, so please come on over there.
Heck yeah. I'm planning on the Bear 100 for my first. It's in my backyard. It would be special that way.
Let us know if you need pacers or crew.
Yes, I'm sure I will. I'm sure, definitely. But yeah, probably the next 2 years or so we'll get there.
Heck yeah.
Cool. Thanks again. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks, Brendan.
Hey, your host Brendan here. I just wanted to thank you personally for listening to today's episode. As someone preparing for my own first ultramarathon, I've found these conversations to be super valuable, and I hope they are for you as well. Whether you're listening on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or somewhere else, make sure to follow or subscribe so you know when the next episode comes out. Also, make sure you check out the show notes of this episode. There's a link to sign up for the Ordinary to Ultra email newsletter, to join our Facebook and Strava groups where you can meet other people striving to run their first ultra marathon, and see any links that our guests may have provided as well. Thanks again, and we'll catch you in the next episode.